morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Ivy Tech Northeast Campus for this post-secondary career pathways event. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. We're excited about our agenda today. There's been some wonderful planning and a lot of hard work behind bringing all of you together, and we're excited about the folks who were able to join us today between our K-12 higher education, nonprofit, industry representatives. So thank you for being here this morning. My name is Josh Wenning. I'm the Executive Director for the Region 8 Education Service Center, one of the partners today. I've been asked to help kind of MC the day a little bit to kind of help keep us moving through the agenda, to keep us on time, on track, so that we can obviously respect everyone's time, have a meaningful day, and make sure that this is a great event for everyone who's involved. You are here today as an important component to the success of our students and industries in Northeast Indiana. Educators, employers, nonprofits, industry leaders, government representatives, and community partners are convening today to lead our region forward as a model for successful partnerships and successful use of post-secondary career pathways. Our goal is simple yet challenging, which is align K-12 and higher education resources to the needs of employers to maximize career pathway opportunities for students. Post-secondary career pathways are needed now more than ever as global competition, a rapidly changing job market, and economic uncertainties make planning for our students' futures difficult. A recent Gallup survey found that only 49% of 5th through 12th grade students identified as being engaged in school, while 47% saw their futures as being hopeful, so again, less than half. In fact, the survey found that students become less engaged as they move through school. Part of the reason for these results is the inability for some students to have the opportunity to do what they do best on a regular basis, or to pursue areas of interest and natural talent. Career pathways provide the avenue for student engagement by laying out a structured plan for success, leading to not only jobs, but to a career. This plan inspires hope, and it allows students to create goals in order to achieve their dreams. So what's our purpose of the day? It should begin with what author Simon Sinek laid out as our why. What's our cause, our belief, our purpose? Our why is what we believe students who fully engage and connect with career pathway resources will maximize their college and career readiness, quite simply. We know that if they take advantage of what we can structure for them, this can maximize their own talents, maximize our resources, and also our collective resources. The what and the how of how we do that is by seeking these collaborative solutions. We're here as collaborative partners from a variety of sectors, a variety of industries. Again, from education, business, and nonprofit stakeholders in assisting students with career pathways. The how of what we do is through the leading of convening sessions just like this one. So while each of you come today with your own why you do what you do, the purpose behind your organization, the purpose for what drives you when you wake up in the morning, I would challenge you to take advantage of this time together, to be an active participant. That's going to be really important. You're going to get out of today what you're willing to put in. If you engage with if our education partners engage with our business partners and vice versa, it's going to be a much more meaningful day for you individually and also for us collaboratively and for your team. I hope that you're able to leverage the ideas and the collective knowledge in this event to do something unique in your schools, in your organizations, to create new partnerships, to imagine resource opportunities for your students that do not currently exist. Leave today inspired to help students maximize their potential through post-secondary career pathways.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Natalie Winsler. I work with Mike Barnes on the employer engagement team at the Department of Workforce Development. So today I'm kind of just acting as a facilitator. We've done 3 rounds with these wonderful information technology and logistics industry specialists. So kind of the format and rhythm we've gotten into is just sharing their roles and their perspectives from their organizations, and then we'll actually go around the room and just hear your name and title so we get an idea of what your perspective is, and then just dive in with any questions that you have and kind of just follow the conversation from there. So if that sounds good, we'll jump in with Shannon.
So I'm Shannon Cole. I'm the Director of Global Transportation and Trade for Vera Bradley. Been with Vera and in Fort Wayne for about a year and a half. Spent the last 12 years with Amway up in Grand Rapids. Have a little bit of experience in the UPS world of things. My dad retired from UPS after about 38 years. But happy to be here and listen to the questions and have the interaction with you guys as we talk about kind of what's going on in education and what's going on in the workforce. So.
Good. I'm TK Herman. I'm the president and co-founder of a company called Aptera here in town. We're a technology and digital marketing company. We have about 90 employees, started the business 14 years ago. And I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I didn't go to school for any of this stuff at all. I'm a Fort Wayne native, went to Snyder High School, went to Ball State to college, got a degree in sales and marketing, and ended up owning an IT and digital marketing company. But I just really appreciate the opportunity of being at an event like this, because we certainly recognize that the lifeblood of our business going forward are the kids that are coming out of high school today. So whatever we can do to help you guys that are on the front lines with those kids, let them know what kind of opportunities exist, what kind of career paths are available, what kind of internships or shadowing opportunities are available. That's awesome to be here for sure. So thank you for that.
Good morning. I'm Matt Etchison, Vice President of Information Technology at Ivy Tech. I've been in IT since 1996. Came to the college February 2016. Kind of helped modernize the curriculum to make sure what we're doing on the academic side is completely aligned with industry needs. I did 8 years as an IBM sysadmin and did 9 years as Senior Manager of R&D at Interactive Intelligence, which was the only publicly traded software company headquartered in Indiana at the time. And so glad to be here and answering your questions, and any way I can help out, looking forward to it.
My name is Aaron Bowdy. I'm the Vice President for Supply Chain at statewide at Ivy Tech. Been in logistics since 1991. I was a college student in manufacturing at Purdue, and my mom connected me with a transportation company to get a part-time job, and fell in love with it. And I guess that's a tribute to, if you can match the education with the workplace early on, you're much better at retaining those folks in that industry and helping them pay for college and progressing in their career and having experience when they're done getting a great job.
Great. Any burning questions from the IT, logistics side of things, specific questions that you have for these sectors?
I just want to say that I'm nervous because my stepson goes to Maple Creek, and I don't know, we'll have to talk later. Maybe she has something to tell me, I don't know.
Nice. Well, some reoccurring themes, we're here for career pathways and kind of this connection between industry and education. So internships I know have been talked about. Do you guys want to kind of share what you've shared with the other groups?
Yeah, for sure. So up here we've told the same stories over and over again, so we'll try to keep them fresh.
Well rehearsed.
Yeah, but I'll speak from our perspective. We're very, very open to having interns come in, and I keep using the word kids, and I shouldn't use that, but young people come into our office and even just do job shadowing. So if they have an interest and they think they might want to be a graphic designer, they think they might want to be a web developer, or they like mobile apps, giving them an opportunity to come in for a couple of hours and sit with somebody and kind of see what we do. We're extremely open to that. We certainly do have internships, both through traditional internships in the sense that they're doing them over the course of the summer or over a break, for example. But then also we have internship opportunities where they'll come in during the school year. I think the challenge for you guys is connecting with people like us. And I would just highly encourage you to reach out via social media. Like LinkedIn's a great resource. So as you're looking to make those kind of connections, LinkedIn, Facebook, and use just real world connections to try to make the connections, because what we've seen as a theme is that across the companies that we represent here is that we're extremely open to having those kind of conversations and want to give these kids experiences. But we hear from you guys that the hard part is well, how do I know you even exist out there? And so one of the things I was going to actually talk to Josh about later on was the idea of almost having an event like this where you bring in companies from around this area and give them 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes to talk about their business and how they would work with interns and how they would work with the schools to show the kids the opportunities that exist, and allow almost like a speed dating of sorts, so that you guys can go to one place and see all of that. I think that would be a definite benefit for sure.
And I guess I would say is we all need to be a little bit more aggressive with the high schools. We've kind of sat back at times in certain regions. It may not be the case in this region, but we kind of listen to the high schools, and if the high school wants something, we try to do it, as opposed to being more aggressive and say, hey, we've talked to industry and we have this program we think we could do. Can you help us with it? We need to all give feedback so we can create programs so when people graduate, they have skills, graduate from high school, they have skills and can either discover a career or eliminate some careers. It'd be better for them to leave and know, well, I thought I wanted to do that. I don't want to do that, so I'll go on to something I do like. It's better to do that at 18 than 20 years old and $50,000 later. The other thing that I brought up in earlier sessions is I know the JAG does a great job. I mean, we're very much in communication with JAG in most of our regions, and they get to go on the tours and they get exposed to a lot. And same thing with a lot of what we call the CTE, or the Career and Technical Education kids. They're the same kids. A couple of the JAG kids, I pass on the street at a shopping center, they recognize me in my car, hey. But there's this whole 80% of a high school a lot of times we don't get to because they're on a certain degree program that doesn't allow for them to get out or get exposure even in the classroom. So, we can be creative with assignments, whether that's in speech, English, math, to come up with assignments to give them exposure to the industry. They can write a paper on Aptera. They can write a paper in the logistics industry in Fort Wayne. That's research. We all do research on the jobs in the area. That's a research project, and I'm sure the DWD would allow you to use some of their data, and they can do a little data, learn to use Excel, a little math skills, and some problem solving, and how do we address the problems we're talking about today. So being creative and kind of bringing industry and opportunities into the high school, however that looks, is very important.
So I know Vera Bradley this year, first year partnering with Connexus, right? So we do have a couple high school interns that we brought in to work really in our continuous improvement department in the distribution center itself. And then we also employ a couple college interns every year, still working with continuous improvement team. And really the idea is that we get them the exposure, right? These guys are in 10th, 11th, 12th grade. They think they know what they want to do, but most of them aren't really sure what they want to do. I didn't think I was going to be moving handbags around the world when I graduated high school, believe it or not. So it's important. I would tell you that college degrees are important. Internship experience and real life experience is just as important, if not more important, especially when you are trying to find that first job. It hasn't changed that sometimes the hardest thing to do is really get your foot in the door, but once you get your foot in the door, it enables us to have this type of conversation even, right? And it enables us to get out in front of kids. I'd be the first one to volunteer that if teachers wanted me to come in or schools wanted me to come in and just speak to kids about what logistics is, be happy to do it. Most of them probably don't know. So it's just really, it's getting that type of community outreach, having the conversation about, what are the next steps? What is after high school? And being able to have that conversation with them, I just think is extremely important.
So, and I think Shannon, I think you hit on something a second ago that probably for a lot of us and probably for our kids too, and really this is probably for both sectors, or what are some of the biggest misnomers or misinformation? What don't we know about logistics and even IT?
So sure. So IT is changing the world. So if we haven't figured that out yet, it's coming.
You stole my thunder already.
Yeah. And
I think it's here.
It's here, yeah, and it's going to continue to change. So for us, even in the logistics world, in the supply chain world, we have to change with that, right? We have to partner with the IT companies, with our own internal IT resources to make sure that we're in line with what's coming and what's already happened and where we're going. It's expensive, yeah, it takes a lot of time, yes, it takes a lot of resources, but if you don't, really the aftermath of that is who's left. Look at the retail industry, right? Who's going to be left in a couple of years? Not many of us. So it's important that we, again, just kind of adjust to as times change, where, again, these kids coming out of the new generation, I mean, how it's impacted us, again, is through IT, right? I mean, the internet is crazy. It's going to continue to evolve, and specifically for the retail world, nobody's going in shopping malls anymore, right? Everybody's closing down brick and mortar and infrastructure, so it's important for us that we obviously consider that as part of our strategy, but what are we going to do about it, right? How are we going to partner with IT? What are we going to do from an e-commerce perspective that gets us to be the next Amazon Prime or the next ShopRunner, so that we can get 2-day delivery all across the United States if we have to, because as a customer, that's what you guys are saying you want. So we have to be able to adapt to that.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I like to give the story of Larry Ellison of Oracle, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, Steve Jobs of Apple, and Bill Gates of Microsoft. What do those 4 billionaires have in common? None of them have a college degree. And I think this notion that you have to have a 4-year degree to be in IT is absolutely nonsense. And look, I have a master's degree. I work for a community college. I think education is extremely important. But I think what's as important, to add what Shannon said, is having the work experience, having the skills and competencies. That's what matters. I was 11 years into my IT career before someone even asked me about my college degree, right? It wasn't an issue. But if you can get an industry certification either in high school or at the community college level, in Cisco or Oracle or Microsoft or Salesforce, so they're these big IT behemoths. I mean, the top 5 companies in the world are IT companies, right? And so if you have those skills and those competencies, you can go into that interview and say, look, it's proven, I've passed this exam, I can do this, and this is my experience or my internship with this. That's as good or better than any 4-year degree ever.
So, and I'll piggyback off of that. The first 2 employees that we ever hired at Aptera since had left and went on to Microsoft, and both of them had very successful careers at Microsoft. Both of those guys did not have college degrees. And I remember the first one left probably around 2006, maybe. And I remember having a conversation with him. I was super excited. I'd done a lot of work at Microsoft over the years, so I was excited about him, the idea of him going to a company. I love the idea that we have been able to cultivate people that have that kind of skill that's attractive to large corporations like that. But I remember talking with him that he clearly had the skill. What he didn't have was the college degree to get him past the automated resume searching. Right? So he had to figure out another path to get the interview, because I knew for a fact if he got the interview, he'd get the job like that. So that became his challenge. But I will piggyback off of that, because I would never ever discourage anybody from going to college at all. But I grew up in a very traditional household. My parents were both educators, both master's degrees, and I was sort of taught from an early age that you go to high school, you go to school, you get good grades, you get in a good college, you go to college, you get good grades, you get a good job. And I'll tell you, over the last 10 years, I've just shifted my mindset completely from that. Some of the smartest people that I have ever had an opportunity to work with never went to college. And honestly, I don't even care. When I used to look at resumes when I was hiring, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I would look at the resume to see where they went to college, only to see what year they graduated to gauge how old they were. That was it. I didn't really care, because I was going off of the experience that they were bringing to the table. And what's so great about the world today that we live in is that the ability to get that experience, it exists in so many places. You can take some of the stuff that they're doing at Ivy Tech here, giving students an opportunity to go in and get a Cisco certification or an Oracle certification in a matter of 6 months. Is phenomenal. But if somebody comes to us and they said, hey, I want a job at Aptera, what do I need to do to make that happen? We've had that happen on several occasions where we say, well, you need these 3 certifications, or you need this skill set, go out and do it. And a few of those people actually have gone out and done it and come back to us. Well, right there, that's a huge initiative on their own part to make that happen. And if they're willing to take that initiative and get that at least base knowledge they need, we're super interested in talking to them. The other part that I want to mention too is that when we talk about careers in IT, it's not just a heads down programmer. It's not what a lot of people envision in terms of somebody sitting in a dark room banging out code on the keyboard. We have 90 employees at Aptera, and about half of those are actually technical people that write code. The other half are made up of sales, marketing, project managers, graphic designers. We have writers that work for us. We have QA and testing people that work for us. So you can go to work for a really cool technical company and not ever write a line of code. And if you look at the bulk of people, at a company like Salesforce.com or Microsoft or something like that, most of them are not writing code. They're doing some other mechanism inside of the business. And I'm stealing his line here earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all good.
But he mentioned earlier there's 3 M's in a business. There's the makers, the managers, and the marketers. And I've never heard that before. I thought that was fantastic because it's right, because the makers in an IT business are the ones that write the code. But if you look at those 3 M's, that's only 1/3 of the whole that make that up. So there's tons of opportunities. So we've had the opportunity over the last year to get involved with Summit Middle School. And I really commend what they've done. They actually put a program in place at Summit where they were teaching the kids. It made it a requirement for all 7th graders to go through this program where they were teaching them how to write mobile apps. And beyond that, they're teaching them real world things. It's through a program called with Project Lead the Way. But if you're interested, I would highly recommend getting in touch with the folks at Summit. I was super impressed with that because they were teaching them real world things. So we went in and spoke with them on numerous occasions. I went in probably myself 6 or 8 times. And they're teaching agile development and backlogs and design and all this, and it was super cool. And what I liked so much about that program is it gave the kids, all the kids in the school, not just the ones that elected to do it, all the kids in the school, an exposure to, number one, seeing what's behind the apps that are on their phone that they play with every day. Right? They're getting exposure to seeing, well, somebody has to create this, right? But also I recognize that when we would go in and talk to a class that out of 60 kids in this class, on one of the classes, there's 5 of them that know they want to do this. They go home at night and they do this on their own, right? This is going to be their career. There's another 15 of those kids that hate it. They're like, this is the worst thing ever. It's like pulling teeth. I don't want to do this. Not for me. And then there's the kids that are somewhere in between, right? And I think even the kids that absolutely hate it, they're getting exposure to lessons like, well, I don't know how to do this, right? I have an idea for a game, for an app. I don't know how to make that, but somebody told me I could, so I got to go figure out how to make that happen. That's all technology really is just solving problems, right? So the skills that they're learning, even if they're never in a traditional IT career, that'll parlay into nursing, into education, you name it. The problem-solving skills that will certainly carry over. So I think there's just so much that we can do with these kids at a young age to expose them, to the opportunities that exist out there, because there are so many opportunities out there from a technology perspective and careers, for sure.
Well, I just this is a real story that just happened with a friend of ours. They have 2 kids. They're 2 years apart in high school. So one's been out for 2 years. The other one has been out for 4. The daughters, the older one, graduated from Ball State just recently in HR. The son went into an industrial maintenance program to where he engaged with Subaru, and he went to school 2 days a week and worked 3 days a week. As a sophomore, during his program as a full-time student, they did his taxes a couple months ago, $30,000. He made as a sophomore in college, 19 years old. He's now graduated, making $20-some an hour as a full-time benefits employee at Subaru. His sister, like a lot of 4-year college students, she worked at Applebee's as a server and worked at Penn Station, graduated with a 4-year HR degree. She also interviewed with Subaru for an HR position, an interview which I got her because I had personal relationships with their HR people. She got 2 interviews. They interviewed for 2 different positions, and they didn't end up hiring her. And when they just told me, because they knew I referred them to them, they go, she's got to have experience. We just can't hire her without experience, even with the degree. So you see 2 kids, one's 2 years older, doesn't have a job, is still serving at Applebee's in Muncie, Indiana now, trying to find an HR job. She's going to get ready to take one at Toys R Us, where basically she's a cashier most of the year and then helps them during their peak season with HR just to get some experience. And she's 2 years older than her brother, that's probably, with overtime and everything, going to make $70,000 or $80,000 a year. So the 4-year degree path where you go have fun and learn for 4 years doesn't really work anymore. You have to have experience and embed that either at the high school level and or at the college level to get a job when you're done.
And to add on to that story, it sparked something I thought of. So my wife and I have a good friend, and she and her husband, their family, they live in Las Vegas. Their 15-year-old son, about a year or two ago, started an Instagram account. And the Instagram account's called Best Celebrations. And if you guys don't follow it, probably chances are one of your kids do. And it's got 2.5 million followers, super high engagement. And he just posts videos of celebrations. It's actually a pretty entertaining account. 15 years old, made $150,000 last year. Okay, so so when I was a kid, right, when I was 15, I was mowing lawns, right? So I could go out and I could earn money, and I could go bag groceries and so forth. And that still exists today. Like there's lots of 15-year-olds that still mow lawns, right? But there's a whole nother piece to the world that didn't exist. And I think, and it didn't exist in the world that we grew up in, right? So we've got to be aware that kind of stuff exists for them, and it's okay, because that kid, I don't know if he'll ever go to college or not, but he's learning so much right now at 15 years old that if he never goes to college, like if that 15-year-old kid came to us with a marketing position, I see that on the resume, I don't care if he graduated high school, honestly, because he's got the real world experience, right? And so I guess understanding just the world that we live in today is such a key thing for sure, and helping guide the kids. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things that I just wrote down here, because you guys are the fourth group that's come in here. And the reoccurring thing that I keep hearing and thinking is industry changes because you have to, or you're not going to be competitive in the world. Education, we really haven't changed. We're still teaching Shakespeare.
So let me catch up on
You know,
that.
we're still teaching Shakespeare to 11th and 12th graders who could give a rip about Shakespeare. Why are we not having them write a paper? Because they do need to learn how to write, and you do need to learn how to critically read something that's beneficial.
Yep. So Google as a company, obviously a massive enterprise. Google as a company changes their core product 92 times a day. Now, if McDonald's drive-thru changed their menu 92 times a day, your head would spin, right? But we wonder why those companies are so successful and they're printing money and so innovative is because they're constantly evolving and changing and iterating. And TK and I know this from the Agile world, you know, the longest your product lasts is 2 weeks, usually 10 days at the most. You're constantly iterating and evolving and changing things, and you can say Google does it 90 times a day. And so do we have that sort of mindset? Because every industry should have that kind of mindset, because I can assure you Amazon does in the retail space, right? And Google does, and Facebook does. And I heard a great story recently where the largest social club in the world is Facebook, and they charge no membership dues. You know, the largest retailer in the world is actually Alibaba out of China, even bigger than Amazon. They have no inventory. The largest provider of content and media and TV is Netflix. They own no studios. And the largest rental car company in the world is Uber, and they own no cars. And you see where this is going, right? And so it's that sort of mindset. But all those companies iterate constantly and change and evolve every day. And I can assure you with higher ed and with K through 12, if we don't do it, someone's going to do it somewhere, right? It's going to happen. And it may not be in the United States, unfortunately. But so if we don't evolve and iterate and keep up, and get this supply we need to fill the demand, then the jobs are going to be outsourced and companies are going to go elsewhere. You know, you made that point about Subaru, right? In local communities, if you're not supplying that talent that they need, well, they're going to get it. I mean, they have to keep their business open, right? So.
And I think one of the hard things, being part of the Works Council and the DOE comes in and talking about the high schools, and industry members are obviously chairing that and guiding it. They're like, why don't you teach computing to 8th graders? Why don't you do this? And you know, the answers we get a lot of time is, well, we've always done ag, and we have an ag teacher, and that drives everything. And you know, you couldn't do that in the industry. He couldn't say, well, these are the people we have, so we're not doing this other stuff. And I'm not saying fire all the ag teachers, but we have to find a way to get the high demand jobs into the junior high and high school more, not just kind of go on what we've always done. Yeah, I mean, they said that in that meeting, and I thought the industry's people's heads were going to start spinning. They were so mad.
Well, you guys made a comment earlier too about Infosys coming.
Yep.
I thought that was good.
Yeah, so Infosys is a global IT company out of India. I think they have over 200,000 global employees. So they came to Indiana and they announced, and I was in the governor's office for that announcement, for 2,000 IT jobs and that they're creating a campus and grow that. Well, there are not 2,000 IT jobs available right now. I mean, there are 2,000 IT people waiting for jobs. I mean, the data we see is 25, 30,000 open positions, right? And so when these companies come here and they want to relocate, because we have this traditional or this phenomenal school system with Notre Dame, Purdue, IU, Rose-Hulman, Ivy Tech, we have all these colleges that are great, and so they're coming here and growing this IT hub, and we're now known as the Silicon Prairie, right, in Indiana. It's all this tech momentum, 30% growth year over year. If you look at the top tech company or top tech cities, Indianapolis ranks number 5, but if you remove Austin, Silicon Valley, actually we're the 3rd fastest growing IT community and state in the United States. So it's crazy. So people want to relocate and businesses want to relocate here, but we have to be able to have that supply. That's what we're trying to work on. And that starts at the K-12 space. It doesn't start once they get to Ivy Tech. It has to start early on.
Yeah, and I've been involved in a lot of site selections where companies come in, it's confidential, they're trying to figure out which community they're going to go to. They don't necessarily, the packages are always there in every community, the economic packages. The only thing they want to know is workforce. What are the high schools doing? What is the community college doing? What is the pipeline to where we don't want you to come and then train people to us? What are you doing to train for these high demand jobs? We need to know who you have out there now working. So we can't adjust after the people come want to locate here. We have to be in front of the curve and know what the high demand jobs, and the DWD has that data to say we're going to train for these industries because we know those are the ones that are going to want to move here and they're the future. We want to have the workforce to where they do pick Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, Lafayette, so we can grow our communities, our home values, our quality of life goes up.
Definitely.
So with that in mind, if we could change high school and we could change curriculum, what would be a couple courses that you feel strongly need to be taught in the high school?
Well, it's obvious the IT guy is going to say IT, right? But if you think about, though, it's every sector in every county in Indiana, every factory, every warehouse, every hospital, everywhere there's IT. It's pervasive throughout the entire economy of the entire planet, for that matter. And so having the computer skills, regardless of your sector that you go in, and you look at healthcare. When I talk to healthcare and hospitals, talk to CEOs, you think they'd say, I want registered nurses. Well, actually, they say they want Epic and Cerner, which is the charting electronic medical records. That's the technical skills, because every nurse has to use that, every CNA, every doctor, everyone's using that technology platform. So they need those technology skills to mold that to their hospital. So I think technical skills in any profession you go into is going to be absolutely critical.
And I think,
And then we need people who can teach those things.
yeah, and that has been the challenge. I mean, we struggle with it sometimes at the community college level, and high school, I know we pay a certain amount. These are high demand jobs, and we're telling how great the salaries are. Well, they're way above what we pay at the education level.
Right.
So I always used to say, especially in skilled machining, that we'd have to find someone that's retired before we could hire them to teach for us.
Right.
And it is a challenge because we have people graduating in 2 years, a 20-year-old that's making more than the people teaching them that. So it's a challenge, but as positions come open, and again, we struggle with it just like the high schools. We have instructors, we lose instructors, and what happens in our environment is we don't lose the history, the English, and the math because there's not a lot of industries they go into. We lose the business, we lose the computing, we lose the manufacturing, and then if we're on declining enrollment or any kind of financial thing, we don't replace those positions. So hard decisions need to be made. Do we not realign our priorities to get and be creative?
Yep.
We supply teachers. Our boss, Chris Lowry, which I probably was in here earlier, did a program down in Southeast Indiana where Ivy Tech is doing the teaching for the high school, because I think of computing because I go in with the dean all the time, and getting instructors is the biggest thing. So if we can share instructors or we can provide some of the education.
So that's what we're going to be doing. Starting this fall, we're doing a pilot in Hamilton County with Noblesville and Westfield and Fishers HSE community schools, where we're taking anyone who wants to come in can learn an industry certification from IT, such as software development or Cisco or Oracle, and so that way they can become a certified instructor to then teach in the high school level. So what we're trying to do is move that community college model in through K through 12, started earlier, which is going to be really interesting because then you're going to have 17, 18-year-olds who have industry certifications who can make $50,000, and they're going to tell their parents, I'm not going to college at this point because I got a job interview and I'm 18 for $50K, right? So we're trying to move that earlier on because the technical talent we have, and we talked about this before with young people are incredible with tech. I mean, they grew up with it. They've never not had a phone in their hands or a laptop or a tablet. So they've got those skills, but how do we refine that and get it really specific to, again, networking, software development, databases, things like that, so they can have that kind of pathway. So that's kind of the goal is we can't wait till community college level for this to start. We're going to try to work with K through 12. And this was not actually my idea. It was Cisco and Oracle. Cisco, $150 billion company. Oracle's even bigger than that. Came from Silicon Valley, called me and said, hey, we want to do K through 12, but they won't talk to us. And because you can't take a Silicon Valley company and walk into a high school, there's just no connection there, right? They're speaking two different languages. So they came to the community college and said, you know what, you're the conduit for us. Can you work with us on this? And let's try this. I'm like, sure, if you guys are going to write checks all day long, we'll try this. And so what they've done is they've been able to fund this and create this model for us to say, you know what, let's take this curriculum and let's start it earlier because these kids are bright kids, and this is throughout the United States. They're bright kids. How do we mold that into this pathway? And for their benefit too, you're getting young people on their products, on their platforms even earlier, familiar with their technologies, which they're going to take into the marketplace when they have IT jobs. So we're piloting that this fall. We're planning on rolling out in 2018. We'll see how it goes, but we wanted to do at least a school system in every region in 2018. So that's coming, more to go on that. I actually have to leave this meeting early to have a meeting about that at 1 o'clock. But so be watching for that from Ivy Tech. That's coming. So it's going to be exciting. It's a whole new paradigm shift because we've never really taken corporate multi-billion-dollar IT from Silicon Valley and put it into the high schools. But Indiana's going to be the first to try it. So.
But also, we struggle with the same thing high schools do on student selection. They select their major, and a lot of them go to these like criminal justice, cosmetology, culinary, because they're more fun to be in class during high school than, and that's not necessarily true because you can have a lot of fun learning robotics and manufacturing and logistics and computing. But they drift towards those, and we need to find a way, and we're working on it now, to funnel them into the high demand jobs. Because when we go to a high school, when I was going to the Lafayette area to the large high schools, they would just funnel to criminal justice, culinary, cosmetology, and they wouldn't funnel to the people that were saying you can make 80 to 100 grand. They don't care. They just want to do the cool stuff that seems fun. And you have great recruiters and a pull for those careers, but somehow, and we're doing it through some creative ways and with our regions, but the high schools will have to do the same thing. How do we limit the criminal justice to only those that are really passionate about it? Or should we be doing criminal justice, culinary, and cosmetology? Because, and that's where research kind of comes in. What happens to that person that goes into those three at 22, 23 years old? Are they still in those careers? Would we have been better off just saying we only offer computing, ag, logistics, IT, and manufacturing, and we're only going to focus on those, and those are all we offer? That way, all those kids that have some experience in high-wage jobs, and they have better options. And those aren't easy decisions to make because you have teachers that teach those, and you have students and parents that give you grief because you don't put your kid in them because that's what they want to do. So it's complicated and they're hard decisions, but decisions we have to make for the good of the state, the good of the students.
So we're pretty much right on schedule, not 60 seconds over like our usual rhythm. But this has been perfect. And even just expanding and wrapping up even your thought of like, what's that curriculum? What does that look like in the K-12 space? A recurring theme from the other groups is that it's really the skills. It's not necessarily, the next is kind of the occupations, but then even from the guidance counselor perspective, there are so many occupations, you're not going to know how to really connect a student to all of them. But if you're really looking at the skills that are transferable, then you can really prepare that student to then navigate their careers for a lifetime and not just one class, one job, but then something that they can really, move from and whatnot.
Because I don't want to lose sight of the fact that at our company, at best, 49% of the requirement to get a job there is the skill at best. 51% or more is the people skills. Are you a cultural fit? Are you motivated? Are you hungry? Are you passionate? All of that stuff, and those are things that aren't specific to the industry per se, because whether you're in manufacturing or that applies to anything at all. So any coaching and guidance and help that you guys can give kids that direction for sure is very, very valuable.
Awesome.
And don't forget about logistics in that.
And don't forget about logistics. It's so important. It truly is. Well, we'll formally conclude, but definitely encourage everyone to continue talking the rest of the day. But thank you for your thoughts, and thank you guys. It's been fun this 4 rounds.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.